A $2 billion project said to create thousands of jobs in the state is moving forward.
It's the first major transmission project to be approved in the American West, and it is a huge step forward in terms of unlocking the energy potential here.
The massive SunZia transmission line will span 515 miles. It'll carry renewable energy from New Mexico and Arizona to the rest of the West. The Obama administration says it will create thousands of jobs and bring in more business to the state. But Republican Congressman Steve Pierce says the power line will interfere with testing at White Sands Missile Range.
It looks like this thing is just being fast-tracked at the disadvantage of our national security and the job base in New Mexico.
The SunZia transmission line is set to break ground in 2018. An Albuquerque balloon pilot and his partner are soaring high in the hopes that the next time they touch the ground, they'll land in the history books again. It's a trans-Pacific flight that could take nearly a week, and it's being closely tracked here in Albuquerque. News 13's Alex Goldsmith has more.
It was a long wait, but the Eagle has launched. Well, two Eagles to be specific. The two Eagles flight lifted off from Saga, Japan on an ambitious trans-Pacific adventure.
It's a day where our imaginations will soar along with the two balloon pilots.
Those pilots are Russia's Leonid Tukatayev and Albuquerque's own Troy Bradley. Mission control is based here in the Duke City at the Balloon Museum.
Come down here to see this control center. This will be open and it'll be free.
It should take the pilots about 5.5 days to cross the ocean.
They do have a small heater in the capsule, so it'll probably be 50, 60 degrees all the time.
Where and when Bradley and his partner will land, nobody knows.
We did careful calculations, and we think we have enough ballast for a good 9 days of flying. As of last night, it looked like there was a chance they would go down to the Baja Peninsula, which would have been great.
The goal, to fly the farthest a gas balloon has ever flown and possibly stay up the longest.
This is huge. This will be the ultimate world record, the absolute world record in gas ballooning for distance.
Bradley's stepfather tells us the record book is not new for the pilot.
Of course, he loves world records. That's what he lives for, and he holds over 50, and this will be the crown of it. And I think probably the last big adventure.
And what an adventure it is.
Let's cheer, let's pray, let's be excited.
Alex Goldsmith, KRQE, News 13.
If they break the distance or time records, they'll top another Albuquerque balloonist. Ben Abruzzo set those records flying for more than 5.5 days in the late 70s and traveling more than 5,200 miles in the early 80s. And here's a look at where they are this morning. The balloon has now passed over Japan, soaring high above the ocean. If you want to watch the full video of the takeoff, we've put it on our website, krqe.com. Investigators believe it was an electrical fire that tore through a home, killing 2 people. New Mexico State Police say the fire burned the home in Santa Casia, New Mexico on Wednesday. Police say space heaters plugged into one circuit may have sparked the fire. The 2 people died from burns and smoke inhalation. And Bernalillo County firefighters are looking into what caused a fire at the old Mickey's Dairy building in the South Valley. Around 2:30 yesterday morning, flames tore through the building on Coors near Don Felipe Road. No injuries were reported. The passenger of a suspected drunk driver who crashed into a deputy's car is also behind bars for what she's accused of doing to a deputy. According to a criminal complaint, Joseph Trujillo was drunk behind the wheel when he plowed into a sheriff's car on Ladera near Sequoia. When deputies got there, his passenger, Gareth Ripple, was sitting on the sidewalk. Deputies say she got up and refused to sit down, telling deputies, quote, "shoot me." While arresting her, the deputy claims she kicked him in the jaw. She's booked at MDC on a $5,000 bond. Rio Arriba County sheriffs will remember fallen deputy James Martinez tomorrow. Martinez was killed 24 years ago in what is known as the Chimayo Massacre. He was shot and killed while serving a temporary restraining order. The deputy was among 7 victims that day. The event, which is open to the public, will be at 10 tomorrow morning. We know more about what caused a shooting involving a Hobbs police officer. Last Saturday, Officer Royal Hopper showed up to help break up a fight at the Diamond Lil's bar. He saw two men wrestling over a rifle. State police say those two men are 21-year-old Kyle Lagren and 25-year-old Nathan Trujillo. The officer told the men to drop the rifle, but police say they did not listen. And when the rifle was pointed at the officer shot the men. Both men were treated at a Texas hospital and released. Sandoval County deputies saved a man after he rolled his pickup truck off a cliff. It happened yesterday morning near Balderas. It's unclear how the wreck happened, but only the driver was inside. The county had to use its new medical helicopter to airlift the driver to the hospital. It's the 7th time they've had to use it. New Mexico State Police are investigating the death of a man whose body was found on a dirt road. Wednesday, Grant County Sheriff's deputies found the body of 27-year-old Patrick Campos near Highway 152. Police say his body was near a cemetery off of Georgetown Road. Sheriff's deputies asked state police to help with the investigation, although they say there was no sign of trauma. 2 hikers are safe this morning after spending a few hours stuck in ice and snow on the La Luz Trail. It took rescue workers about 3 hours to get the pair down off of the mountain. Bernalillo County Fire Department and Albuquerque Mountain Rescue had been searching for 2 lost hikers. They made contact with them around 10 last night. Rescuers tell us the hikers started up the trail around noon yesterday. Later, they ran into trouble and had to call for help. Rescuers told us the weather made things even more dangerous for the pair.
The conditions were icy, and this means that when they ran out of daylight, they really didn't have options. They had to call for help. They couldn't go down, couldn't go up.
Rescuers say the 2 hikers were stuck just over a mile onto the trail. They tell us the hikers weren't as prepared as they could have been, and starting when they did might have been a factor too. Those 2 hikers were evaluated at a hospital and should be released. Officials have not released their names yet. Well, if you're planning on taking a hike anywhere this winter, experts say there are a few must-haves to make sure you're safe.
Just be prepared for snow and ice on the trails. Have some traction devices for your feet, enough warm clothes.
Now, these rescue crews say you'll also want to be sure you have a headlamp, a first aid kit, a cell phone, and of course enough food and water. They say it's better to over-prepare than end up needing something important. The New Mexico Court of Appeals is set to hear a case that may allow terminally ill patients to end their lives legally. Tomorrow, the court is scheduled to hear arguments in a case involving a Santa Fe resident with advanced uterine cancer. Last year, a 2nd Judicial District judge ruled the state constitution that she is allowed to end her own life. The judge also ruled doctors could not be prosecuted under the state's assisted suicide law, which classifies helping with suicide as a 4th-degree felony. The husband of one of the most outspoken critics of Governor Susana Martinez's education policies is being forced out by that administration. Tim Court was the spokesman for the State Department of Finance, but is now on involuntary leave and will soon be out of a job. The Santa Fe New Mexican is reporting the Martinez administration denied Court's firing is related to his wife's criticism of the governor's education policies. APS board member Kathy Court says her husband is not being fired for any impropriety on the job. The cabinet secretary where Court worked said Court's firing is part of a reorganization within the governor's administration. State Attorney General Hector Balderas says he's looking at releasing more information from an audit concerning alleged fraud by behavioral health providers. The New Mexico Foundation for Open Government sued last September after former Attorney General Gary King and the Human Services Department refused to release the audit. The Attorney General is currently researching whether or not it should release more of that 2013 audit. He said he'll be making a $1 million funding request to help speed up the investigation. Islamic State militants say they've killed one of 2 Japanese hostages they've held since last year. Japan's prime minister says the video is likely authentic. Don Champion reports.
Islamic State militants posted a photo of hostage Kenji Goto holding a photograph of fellow hostage Harana Yukwa. It indicates Yukwa had been beheaded. In an audio message, Goto then purportedly demands a prisoner exchange for his release. The post was quickly deleted. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says the message is likely authentic. He condemned the murder and demanded Goto's release.
And to the Japanese public,
on Tuesday, ISIS released a video showing Goto and Yukwa who were taken captive in Syria. The terrorists demanded Japan pay $200 million within 72 hours to secure their release. Goto's mother issued a tearful plea, begging his captors to release her son and pleading with the Japanese government to save his life. On Saturday, she reacted to the photo. His face looked extremely nervous, she told reporters. Japan's prime minister angrily insisted his country will not bow to terrorism and will help the international community fight it. ISIS captured 42-year-old Yukwa last summer. Goto's mother says her 47-year-old son left his 2-week-old baby in October, hoping to rescue his friend, but instead was taken hostage. Don Champion, CBS News.
There's confusion among militants affiliated with the Islamic State group about the message's authenticity. In a statement, President Obama condemned what he calls, quote, the brutal murder of a Japanese hostage by the Islamic State group. Republican Party bigwigs and 2016 presidential hopefuls flooded the Hawkeye State for the Iowa Freedom Summit. The summit, put together by Iowa Congressman Stephen King and Citizens United, is considered the first major GOP get-together ahead of the Iowa caucuses. Speaking to the audience yesterday, Governor Terry Branstad wasted no time criticizing the Obama administration and says the country will only change with new leadership.
America is in dire need of new leadership. America needs solutions, not rhetoric.
Some notable GOP figures not taking part in the event include former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, and 2012 presidential candidates Mitt Romney and Senator Rand Paul. President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama arrived in India today for a 2-day visit. During the visit, President Obama will hold talks with the Indian Prime Minister and attend a state dinner. He will also be the guest of honor at Monday's annual Republic Day parade. Obama is the first sitting American president to visit there twice. After India, the president and First Lady will head to Saudi Arabia, where they will pay respects to the late Saudi King Abdullah and to his successor, King Salman. After a couple of scrubbed launches, an international team launched its helium gas balloon from Japan in an attempt to break 2 world records with a trans-Pacific flight. That team includes pilot Troy Bradley of Albuquerque and his Russian counterpart. They launched their balloon Two Eagles from Saga, Japan yesterday afternoon Mountain Time. They're trying to reach North America in an attempt to break a distance record and also the flight duration record. The team is expected to make landfall within 5.5 days.
Did careful calculations, and we think we have enough ballast for a good 9 days of flying. As of last night, it looked like there was a chance they would go down to the Baja Peninsula, which would have been great.
Now, Mission Control is actually here in Albuquerque at the Balloon Museum. During the flight, the museum is operating on special hours, so you can check out Mission Control and talk to the team. 2 women are in the hospital after an explosion while they were allegedly stealing scrap metal from federally managed land yesterday. It happened at McGregor Range in Otero County. The Otero County Sheriff says they were loading an unexploded ordnance when the shell detonated in their vehicle. The women were taken to an El Paso hospital. 2 men who were with the women were not hurt. Fort Bliss officials and the FBI are now investigating.